Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming, Garry, as well. So, with the combination of the Queen's Gambit and the pandemic and everyone spending more time indoors, is chess finally cool now, Garry?
Yeah, I have to say that chess is booming. Yeah, you can look at the sales of chess sets. You can look at number of games played online. I bet now at least 100,000 games being played as we speak, so on various platforms. But it's not just the boom in terms of numbers. I think the series, I have to say, it was a big surprise for all of us who were involved, played a crucial role to dismantle the negative image of the game. Because when you look at the game of chess presented in great literature like Nabokov's Illusion Defense or Stefan Zweig's chess novel, the chess players were a bit cuckoo. So that's the players that were not exactly in this world. And then you had Bobby Fischer. This is the great triumph followed by great tragedy. So in general, there were reservations about the game of chess, whether it could be good for your kids. Because I have been arguing that Fischer's demise was not because of chess. Actually, he stayed sane because he played chess. So, and what we saw in this movie, and it's a character of Beth Harmon, is chess helped her to overcome her dependence on these green pills and on alcohol.
Yes, I mean, the central character in the show, Beth Harmon, does suffer from addiction to alcohol and pills, as you mentioned. Was that level of addiction something you ever witnessed among top players? Is there something about the intensity of chess that lends itself to that?
Look, I don't think it goes as a surprise that many people on the very top, whether you speak about big sport or music, so they have to find a way to reduce the tension. I mean, I never smoked a cigarette in my life, very modest consumption of alcohol. So, but I knew we had few people. I mean, actually, much less in chess than you can think. So we had few world champions like Alexander Lokin or Mikhail Tal that definitely had problems with alcohol. But look, it's not about this is what's happened with these great players, but it's actually how chess helped Beth Harmon. That's for us was just simply cool, and I think it basically destroyed the barriers for millions and millions of kids, especially girls, to enter the game.
Which is fantastic. Maybe you could talk to us a bit about how your involvement with the Queen's Gambit came about in the first place. I heard that you were actually offered a role in the show yourself.
Yeah, yes, that's true, yes. Not sure whether it was the right choice, but look, the story started as probably many stories, just about movies in one of the restaurants on the Upper West Side. So I got a call from Bruce Pandolfini, famous American coach and chess promoter, who actually worked with Walter Tevis. Because that was the last, actually, it's not the last, it's penultimate novel he wrote in 1983, just a year before he died. And Bruce actually, as a young, expert, worked with Tevis. So Bruce called me and said, Garry, Scott Frank and his producer, Bill Holberg, they would like to see you. So we just, myself and my wife, Dasha, we just entered the restaurant. And immediately, this Scott said, great, I look at you. You have to play Vasily Borgov. Who else could be the Soviet world chess champion? I said, yeah, it's tempting. I look at Dasha, yeah. But, I'm a busy man, I do many things. I'm involved, just in Human Rights Foundation. I'm Avast security ambassador. I go from conference to conference. I am speaker on AI and tons of things I do. I said, fine, I can make it even sweeter. Dasha can play your wife in the movie. So, we can even make it even sweeter. You can have two kids. You have two kids? Yes. In Mexico Zoo, so this. You can have the whole family. We can put it on the screen. Yeah, very tempting. Yes, probably it was a mistake, but we scratched our heads. Said no, okay. 3 months, too much. And he was really upset because what's happened is that he tried to do this before because there were at least 3 attempts to actually put Queen's Gambit on screen. And Scott later explained that all of them failed because the story was too rich for just 2 hours for the motion movie. So, after he had a successful series of Godless, maybe some of you watched on the Netflix basically said, okay, now you can make a choice. And he picked up the Queen's Gambit. They were not impressed. He said, not impressed. I mean, the story, orphan girl from Kentucky playing chess, okay, good luck. So, and he just, and he wanted to actually show chess, the drama of the game, the energy, this is the mystery. And I said, look, I can help you. Not as Vasily Borgov, but I can do a few things. One is I can definitely help you to create real games. Because so often in the movies about chess, you have the game of chess being, let's say, neglected. So I don't know why, statistically it should be 50-50, but very often they have the chess board put wrong, it's in the wrong angle, 90 degrees. I think it should be 50-50, but it's about 80-20 is the wrong square. So I don't know why. And of course, game of chess with probably a couple of exceptions. I think the one was from Russia with Love, when they picked up the real game. So I put it, the Kronstein playing the real game. Most of these games were not as good. Though in Casablanca, if you remember the opening moments, Humphrey Bogart was analyzing real theoretical position from early 40s. And said, I will create you all the games because Tevis, in his book, he was a big fan of the pool, billiard, and chess. And he tried to be very specific on just describing the games. I said, I have to create the games following, the lines. So I'll bring real games, especially the last one against Borgov in Moscow. And I said, that's one. I help you to reconstruct the atmosphere there. And also, I will make few few additions. And one of them, I said, what is missing? KGB is missing. This is, the Soviet champion in the 60s traveling abroad, and where is the KGB? So, it's my personal experience. You couldn't leave the Soviet Union with your family without being followed. So all the men in gray suit, speaking to Borgov, my own creation. That's my personal contribution. This is the way I try to improve Walter Tevis' book. And this is, again, my also contribution was the dialogue in the elevator. If you remember, Beth Harmon was standing at the back, and she was she overheard the conversation between Borgov and KGB guys when they said, "Oh, we would crush her in Moscow." And I said, "No, Borgov was more skeptical. She was orphan. She, like us, losing was not an option." So that's what I suggested to add.
Did it make you feel nostalgic for your own chess playing days being involved in the show?
Look, what was amazed me is just how quickly they actually grasped, this, because it's the very intricate details, because they behaved as real chess players. So Martin Dorchinsky, who played Borgov, he spent hours watching me playing chess, so just to make sure that he's touching the pieces, just before the game. But how Anya, managed it, for me, it's a secret. I mean, I don't know. I mean, she was so natural. And people also ask me, do you remember, Gary, it says she was watching around. You remember the pieces flying, just on the walls, on the ceiling. And I said, this is actually real. Because this is the way many top players, they try to actually think about a climax of the game, a very crucial position. And you don't have to look at the game. Sometimes you just have to take your eyes away. And that's exactly what she did. And of course, that's the Scott did it so perfectly. Just having the images, these like a little bit of hallucination, but it worked nicely. And also there was one moment, I think that's very important. It's in the book, but we discussed it and emphasized it. Is the call from New York, because that's what Benny told her. Russians were winning. Because, and by the way, they always called Soviets Russians. Just don't get confused. I'm half Armenian, half Jewish. Mikhail Tal was Jew. Tigran Petrosian was Armenian. So Paul Keres was Estonian. But it's always a Fischer versus Russian. So that's why this detail is correct. It's Russians. That's how Americans called Soviet players in the 60s. And there was a call from New York because this is also climax of the movie. They created a team in Benny's apartment, and they called. And of course, some people say, Gary, that's impossible. This is, we got you here. Because they couldn't actually call, in the morning, tell her about the moves, and the KGB was not listening and not reporting to Borgov. I said, you're wrong. Of course they were listening. But, this is how the system works. Somebody's listening, then they have to report. And then they have to report. And then it's all the pyramids. And before it goes back to Borgov, it would take too long. So actually, it worked perfectly. So I managed actually to cover many of these areas. Though I have to say that there were a couple of blunders there. Yeah, and one is just in Benny's apartment, because people who are actually watching, they always wanted to find something that is just doesn't fit. And it's this, if you remember, there was the big bookshelf with books in Benny's apartment, and some of the books were printed in the 70s, and that was arguably 1967. But the best one came from one of our Russian friends who said, you know, Gary, I found this is a big mistake. Borgov has a press conference, and there was a big Brezhnev's, the General Secretary of the Communist Party, portrait. But it's 1968, but this picture is from 1978. It's still too old. I said, sorry, I was not responsible for the environment.
So obviously the world of chess has had so much exposure through the show, but how does the world of chess in 2021 differ to the world of chess in the 1960s that we see in the show? How has it evolved?
Ooh. Look, you can say that chess, when I played World Championship match, was already different in 1985. And these days, it's, you can hardly recognize it. Of course, the rules are the same. The board is there, though we play tons of games online now. But the way people prepare for the game is so different. You remember they had these books, you know, they just studied, you know, they made notes. I just looked recently at my archive in the 70s. And then I showed it to my kids. My daughter is 15. She saw the notebooks with my handwriting. Actually, I even had to put diagrams. You know, I was so proud that my coach got me somehow the set made in East Germany, where I could put a diagram, and then it's just, you know, and then just cut it, and then just, you know, put it, you know, just it's to use a glue to put it inside, and then to put pieces there. So basically creating my you know, self-made book. So this is the way we worked. Yeah, it was a very painful process. It's time-consuming, but also it helped us to learn about work ethic. And that's, you know, that's the difference. Now, every kid at age 10, 11, 12 can learn about chess, you know, much more about Bobby Fischer knew 50 years ago in a couple of days. But it doesn't mean him or her, you know, as great as Bobby.
Magnus Carlsen is obviously the world chess champion
Yep,
today. How would Garry Kasparov from 1998 face off against Magnus Carlsen today?
Look, I'm extremely skeptical, you know, when people ask me, just, you know, try to measure, you know, the ability of one player against another player. So it's the same in asking, who was the better player, you know, Pelé or Maradona or Messi? So I think it depends very much on generation. So this is of course, for this audience, maybe Eusebio, but or Ronaldo. I don't just yeah. Again, depends on your age. So this is the difference is that, you know, it's this Magnus Carlsen in 2021 knows so much more than Garry Kasparov. Also, partly because Garry Kasparov trained him for 1 year. So in 2009, 2010. So it's every generation is more advanced because they learn from us, they bring something new to the game. So it's very hard to say. So Magnus is a dominant force in chess. So he's on top for nearly 10 years, and he will be playing the World Championship match just, you know, by the end of this month in Dubai against Russian Grandmaster Jan Nepomniachtchi. If you want to bet, you can pick Magnus, but don't, you know, don't overdo it, because I think the match could be tougher than many people think. But again, still, Magnus is now #1 player, and he's, you know, his style is more universal because he managed to accumulate some of the strengths of the players of the past, like Karpov and Fischer. So it's slightly different from my style, but again, phenomenal player.
You didn't have many defeats in your career, obviously, but we have to talk about briefly the most famous of them against Deep Blue with the AI.
Infamous.
1997, I think.
Yes. How? The 97, 96 I won. Everyone talks about the second one.
How do you go about processing that defeat? Because not just losing, but losing to a computer effectively, and the questions that raises about automation and the future, even back then.
Look, you know, it's, yeah, you said losing to a machine. In 1997, it was the first match I lost, period. Because before that, you know, I won all the matches against humans and also against machines. In 1996 in Philadelphia, I beat Deep Blue. So in 1997, I lost, and it was a pretty, nasty experience, And again, but somehow it's nearly 25 years ago. And if you ask me 97, 98, I would say it would be a curse. Now I think it was a blessing, because now I can go around saying the future of human-machine collaboration is not rosy, but it's optimistic. And nobody can blame me for being callous because I was the first knowledge worker whose job was, under immediate threat from machines. So, yeah, and I thought, a year after the match that, you couldn't beat them, join them. So I think it offered me just, an insight to understand that the future is us working with machines, not, competing with them. Because, there's certain things they will do better than us. Any game, whether it's a game of chess or Japanese chess shogi or game of Go or StarCraft or Dota or Texas Hold'em poker, any game, machine will eventually dominate because it's a closed system. But the moment you just, you try to transfer information from one closed system to another, here is this human input is absolutely unique.
It's totally fascinating. You said you can't beat them, join them. That you're referring to the fact that you've become, one of the many things you've done in your retirement is become an expert in AI and cybersecurity. What would you say are the biggest sort of questions and threats that we're facing in the area of cybersecurity right now?
Look, but it's basically another, it's another side of our relations with computers. And over the last 5 years, I've been working with Avast as a security ambassador. I attended many conferences. And it's all about humans and machines. What do we expect from machines? My answer is, look, computers, AI, is not a harbinger of utopia or dystopia. It's not a magic wand, but it's not a Terminator. It doesn't offer you a free pass to the heavens, but it also doesn't open the gates of hell. It's a tool we created to make us smarter. Machines made us stronger, machines made us faster. These machines should make us smarter. So, and in cybersecurity, it's the same problem. It's not about computers that's threatening us. It's about humans behind them. Humans still have monopoly for evil. So that's it. It's about hostile actors with malign intentions. It's not about, killer robot, or the Matrix that's going to ruin our lives. So at the end of the day, it always goes back to humanity, to what, how can we harness, these relations within our society and, in the big picture, this is globally.
You've written a lot about online trolls and cancel culture and how that sort of, the internet and social media platforms fuel that. You obviously famously signed the Harper's letter.
Yeah, I did.
I'm really interested. I mean, did you at any point regret signing that letter just because it was so controversial at the time?
I don't think it's controversial. I'm proud of signing it. Moreover, I'm just doing more. I just recently did a debate that will be was recorded on cancel culture is toxic. I think it's anything that limits the freedom of speech. I think it's not just controversial. I think it's counterproductive. I think it's very important that we know the limits. Of course, we don't want to promote hatred. But the problem with, if you ask me about cancel culture, is that it's a real threat to the free flow of ideas, silenced by socially unchallengeable views. And I grew up in the Soviet Union. So, and I'm very sensitive to any attempt for any institution, any group, any country to regulate and to limit freedom of speech.
It's the homogenization of thought, I assume, sort of through social platforms, basically, which you're referring to, which is fascinating. Final question is, you've written most recently about ransomware and the threats we're facing from that. Ransomware.
Oh, ransomware, yeah.
What does that threat look like in real terms?
Look, it's the same. We know that it's every technology. It means you have swords, you have shields, and of course you have so many predators in these online jungles because every moment right now you see so many pictures being made. We keep generating data, and data is online currency. And if you have an online currency, somebody's going to steal it. Somebody's going to control it. Somebody's going to take it from you and use for their benefits. This is, again, there's no simple answer. It's not, it's a one-dimensional problem. We just have to recognize, we generate data, somebody will collect the data. So the question is about accountability and transparency. You cannot simply, just have government regulations that will do everything, especially because a lot of people, they keep talking about it, but they do very little. They show almost no efforts to actually participate in the process and just do what I call elementary, the digital hygiene. So just to make sure that, the tools that are being offered by companies, like Avast or just Norton, so these tools can be effectively used to protect your personality.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, thank you very much, Garry. That was absolutely fascinating. So much packed into 20 minutes.